If I'd known that one simple moment could unravel years of friendship, I might have looked away. But I didn't. I saw it. And once you see something like that, you can't pretend you didn't. It started one rainy Thursday. One of those gray days that feels like a soft warning from the universe. I was walking back from work, shoes squishing through puddles hood pulled low over my head. I cut through the back lot behind the little Thai restaurant near Main Street. It's a shortcut I've taken 100 times. That's when I saw them, my best friend Lily and some guy. Not her boyfriend Mark. Definitely not Mark. This one was taller, bulkier, and had his hands all over her in the shadows behind the restaurant. At first I froze. Like maybe I was seeing it wrong. But then Lily laughed. This soft, flirty little laugh I've only ever heard when she's trying to be cute with someone. Then she leaned in and kissed him like she meant it. My stomach dropped. I turned back the way I came and walked the long way home trying to shake it off. But you can't unsee something like that. That night I tossed and turned in bed, staring at the ceiling fan. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe I was wrong. But I wasn't. The next morning Lily texted like everything was fine. Asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I typed out, "I saw you yesterday behind." But then I deleted it. I couldn't do it. Not yet. Instead I said, "Busy this weekend. Let's catch up next week." The thing is, Lily and I have been friends since junior year. We met in home ec. She couldn't sew a button to save her life, and I helped her fake her final project. After that, we were inseparable. Late night drives, beach bonfires, bad karaoke nights. She was the one I told everything to. She was my person. But now I was sitting on this granite of a secret that made me sick. I told myself maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe it was a dumb mistake. Maybe she already told Mark and they were working through it privately. But deep down I knew better. Because if you really felt sorry for something like that, you wouldn't be holding hands behind a dumpster. So I kept quiet. For a while. I started avoiding Lily. Canceled plans. Let texts sit unread. Every time I saw her pop up on Instagram with Mark, laughing in pumpkin patches, sipping cider, doing cute couple things, I felt this twisting guilt. Not just at what she'd done, but at what I was doing too. Staying silent. Letting him be lied to. But I was scared. Scared of losing her. Scared of the drama. Scared that if I said something, I'd be the villain in someone else's love story. Still, secrets don't sit quietly forever. They fester. They burn little holes in your heart. And this one, it was starting to burn straight through me. It all came to a head one night at a bonfire on the beach. I wasn't even supposed to be there, but fate has a way of dragging you exactly where you don't want to go. Lily texted around 6, said some people were gathering at Moonlight Point. It was Mark's idea, she said. One last hurrah before the cold fully set in. I don't know what possessed me to go. Maybe I wanted to see if she'd act guilty. Maybe I wanted to prove myself wrong. The beach was lit with those warm orange flames and surrounded by faces I'd known for years. I saw Lily right away. Hair in a loose braid, denim jacket, marshmallow skewer in hand. Mark stood beside her. That easy grin on his face like nothing in the world could touch him. It made me sick. I stuck close to the other side of the fire, clutching my cider like a lifeline. Lily waved at me, but I just gave her a small nod. I didn't trust my voice. About halfway through the night, Mark plopped down beside me, sand dusting his jeans. "Hey stranger," he said, nudging my elbow. "Haven't seen you in a bit. Everything okay?" I smiled too fast. "Yeah, just work's been crazy." He nodded, his face soft in the firelight. "Glad you're here. Lily's been asking if you're mad at her. I told her you're probably just tired, but I don't know, you guys are usually glued together." I almost choked on my drink. I wanted to scream, she knows damn well why I'm distant. But I just said, "We're fine. Just a weird week." He looked at me a beat longer like he could sense something was off. Then someone called his name and he jogged off, leaving me with a knot in my chest. That was the moment I knew I couldn't sit with this forever. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, tears prickling the corners of my eyes. I kept picturing Mark's face, so open, so trusting. I thought of Lily's laugh behind the restaurant, and I realized I wasn't just mad at her. I was disappointed. She'd been my friend for years. How could she do this? And how could I let it happen? So the next afternoon I sent Lily a text. We need to talk. She replied fast. Come over? I drove to her place with my heart pounding. I rehearsed what I'd say a dozen times. Her living room looked the same as always. Cozy throw blankets, half-melted candles, framed photos of her and Mark smiling at various places. The lake, her cousin's wedding, that trip we took to Vermont. She looked nervous when I came in, chewing her bottom lip. Hey, she said softly. You okay? I sat on the edge of the couch. I saw you, Lily. Her face went pale. I didn't let her pretend. Behind the Thai place. Last Thursday. That wasn't Mark. Silence. She stared at me like a deer in headlights. Then finally she whispered. It was a mistake. No, I said, my voice shaking. A mistake is dropping your phone in the toilet. That was a choice. A betrayal. She didn't cry. She just stared down at her hands. I didn't mean for you to find out. That hurt more than anything. You didn't mean for me to find out? I stood up. What about Mark? I'm going to tell him, she said quietly. I don't know how. I think you do, I said. You just don't want to. I left her there in the silence. The next day she texted. Please don't say anything. It's over with the other guy. It meant nothing. I'm still working things out with Mark. But I couldn't carry it anymore. I didn't reply. I waited 2 days, then called Mark. My hands were shaking as I held the phone to my ear. Hey, I said when he picked up. I need to tell you something. And I'm really sorry. I told him everything. Mark didn't say a word when I finished. Just silence. And in that silence, everything between Lily and me shattered. I sat there, clutching the phone like it was going to sprout teeth and bite me. I could hear him breathing on the other end, but he didn't speak. Not right away. Not for a long aching minute. Then finally. How do you know? My voice barely came out. I saw them. Behind the Thai place. Last Thursday. It wasn't you she was kissing. He let out this soft, miserable noise. Not quite a sigh, not quite a groan. Just pain. I had a feeling, he said. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it either, I whispered. There was another long pause. Thank you for telling me. I don't know what I expected. Anger maybe. Accusations. But not that. Just quiet gratitude. I'm sorry, I said. You didn't do anything wrong. That made me cry. I didn't want to. But I sat there in my car outside the grocery store, forehead on the steering wheel, crying like someone had ripped the rug out from under me. Because it felt like I'd done something wrong. I felt like a traitor. To Lily. To everything we'd been. After that call, it was like I'd stepped into another version of my life. One where everything I thought was solid had cracked. Lily didn't text me again that night. But the next morning, she showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't open the door. But I did. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her makeup was smudged, eyes red and puffy. She had her hair up in this messy bun that made her look younger, like high school Lily. The one who'd sneak out with me to watch the stars from the roof of her parents' garage. You told him, she said, voice flat. I didn't answer. You had no right. I laughed once, cold. No right? Lily, he was your boyfriend. You were the one sneaking around behind his back. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. You don't understand. You don't get what I was going through. Try me, I said. Explain how hurting him makes sense. I was confused. No, you were selfish. That hit her like a slap. Don't act like you're so perfect, she snapped. You think you're better than me just because you told him first? I'm not better. I'm just not a liar. She stared at me, jaw tight, chest rising and falling fast. You could have come to me first. You could have talked to me. I tried. I shouted. I gave you space to come clean. I waited. You knew I was pulling away and you didn't even ask why. Because you didn't want to deal with it. You just hoped I'd keep your secret for you. And then she said the one thing I didn't expect. I didn't think you'd betray me. That hurt. Deep. I shook my head slowly. You betrayed him, Lily. Don't twist this around. She wiped her nose with the sleeve of her hoodie and muttered. Whatever. It's done now. Then she left. Just like that. Walked out the door and didn't look back. We didn't talk after that. The silence was sharp and final. Mark, on the other hand, messaged me a few days later. Just a short text. Thanks again. Really. I didn't expect more. I didn't even know if I wanted more. But things were shifting. The friendship I thought would last forever was over. And something else was quietly beginning. Because after all that, after all the heartbreak and silence and sharp words, I started to see Mark in a different light. Not just Lily's boyfriend, but someone I genuinely cared about. Started with one coffee. Just one. And somehow that coffee changed everything. I ran into Mark at the bookstore downtown. The little one with the creaky wooden floors and mismatched chairs where they brew espresso in the back. I was in the fiction aisle, thumbing through a worn copy of The Secret History, when I heard someone say my name. Hey! I looked up, and there he was, Mark, holding a coffee cup in one hand and a book in the other. He looked tired, but not in a defeated way. More like someone who'd been walking through a storm and had finally found shelter. We stood there for a moment just looking at each other. Then he smiled. It wasn't forced, just small and real. Hi, I said. I didn't think I'd see you here, he said. I practically live here, I smiled. It's my therapy. Same, he nodded. Well, that and caffeine. I glanced at the paper cup in his hand. Is that your second therapy session of the day? Third, he grinned. Wanna join me? And that's how it began. With a little nod and 2 cups of overpriced lattes. We sat by the window, the October light pouring in, golden and soft. First it was awkward. The kind of awkward where you don't know where to look or how to hold your hands. But slowly that faded. We talked about books, about work, about the bonfire. About her. He didn't go into detail and I didn't press. But he said one thing I'll never forget. I think I always knew, he said quietly. Not the cheating part. But that she wasn't really in it the way I was. I just kept pretending it would change. I reached for his hand without thinking. Just this small gentle squeeze. You didn't deserve that. Neither of us let go right away. After that we saw each other more. A walk at the park. A grocery store run that turned into dinner. One night, we watched this old black and white movie on his couch and fell asleep before the credits rolled. It wasn't a date. Not really. But also it was. We weren't rushing into anything. There was too much wreckage behind us. But there was something building. Quietly, kindly. Something warm and good. But of course, nothing stays quiet for long in a small town. The first person to say something was my coworker Tara. She leaned over my desk one morning with a sly smile. So you and Mark, huh? I blinked. What? Oh, come on, she said, laughing. Everyone saw you two at the farmer's market. He was carrying your tote bag and feeding you apple slices. That's basically marriage. I laughed it off, but inside my stomach twisted. Not because I was ashamed, but because I knew if Tara knew, then other people knew. And if they knew, Lily would hear about it soon enough. I got the text that evening. You really couldn't wait, huh?
No hello.
No, how are you? Just that sharp little dagger right to the heart. I didn't answer. Not right away. I sat on my porch, legs tucked under me, staring at the sky. The stars were out. Cold and bright. I didn't owe her anything. Not after everything. But still, I hated the way she made me feel. Like I was doing something dirty. Like I was the one betraying her. But I wasn't. I was just finally choosing peace. And maybe, just maybe, something like happiness. Mark texted me that night too. Dinner tomorrow? My treat. You picked the place. I stared at the 2 messages on my screen. One full of resentment. One full of hope. And I knew exactly which direction I was going to follow. I thought things would settle down after that. I thought the dust had settled and everyone would just move on. I was wrong. Because the next time I saw Lily, everything exploded. It happened at Kara's birthday party. Kara, our mutual friend from college, the kind of girl who still sends handwritten thank you cards and bakes cupcakes from scratch. She had no idea what was bubbling under the surface when she invited both of us. Honestly, I don't think she would have invited either one of us if she had known. But small towns are messy like that. You share friends. You share stories. You share space, even when your worlds are coming apart. I got there early. Mark came with me. We weren't flaunting anything. No hand-holding.
No kissing.
Just 2 people arriving together, bringing a bottle of red wine and a basket of garlic knots, because that's what Kara asked for. People smiled when they saw us. Some a little too knowingly. Some with that half-curious, half-judgmental look that I've grown way too used to. But we tried to ignore it. Tried to just enjoy the music, the food, the easy laughter filling Kara's backyard. And then Lily showed up. She came in with that effortless confidence she always had. Hair curled, lips red, wearing this soft peach dress that made her look like she belonged on the cover of a summer romance novel. I saw her eyes scan the crowd, and then stop sharp when they landed on us. Mark tensed beside me. "Do you want to leave?" I asked under my breath. "No," he said, jaw tight. "We've got just as much right to be here." But I saw the way her presence shifted the air around us. People suddenly seemed quieter, more aware. It was like waiting for thunder after lightning. We avoided each other for about an hour, like two opposing magnets circling the same space. But I knew it was only a matter of time before we collided. It happened near the drink table. I had just refilled my glass when she walked up beside me. She didn't reach for anything, just stood there, waiting. "You're really doing this?" she asked, her voice low and sharp. I turned. "Doing what, Lily? Parading around with him like you didn't destroy everything." I almost laughed. "You destroyed it. I just told the truth." "You know what?" she snapped, stepping closer. "I could have forgiven you if you'd stayed out of it. But now you're with him." "It wasn't planned," I said. "We just started talking." "Oh, how convenient." She was louder now. People were definitely listening. I could feel the heat of their attention on my back. "You lied to him," I said, voice low. "You cheated. And now you're mad that he found someone who didn't." Her eyes burned. "You were supposed to be my friend." "I was. And you made me choose between protecting you or protecting someone who deserved the truth." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "You're not better than me. You're just good at pretending." And she turned and walked away. I didn't chase her. Mark came up a minute later, worry etched on his face. "You okay?" I nodded, even though my hands were shaking. "Yeah, it's done." He didn't say anything, just pulled me into a quiet, steady hug. Later, after the party, we drove in silence. The streetlights passed over us in soft flashes. I looked out the window, still hearing her voice in my head. "You're just good at pretending." Was I? I didn't think so. But I did know this, pretending to be okay with lies, with betrayal, with keeping quiet for the sake of friendship, that wasn't me anymore. Not now. And maybe that meant I was starting to be the kind of person I actually liked. I thought the hardest part was over. I thought after the confrontation, after the tears and slammed doors and whispered gossip, things would finally even out. But then something unexpected happened. Mark and I started becoming something real. It wasn't instant. It wasn't one of those whirlwind romances that knocks you sideways. It was slower than that, quieter. Like a fire built carefully, log by log. Like a song you've heard before, but only now realize the lyrics fit your life. It started with Sunday mornings. We'd meet at the diner on Oak Street. Always sat at the same booth near the window. Mark would get black coffee and an omelet. I'd get pancakes with strawberries and too much whipped cream. The waitresses started smiling at us a little too knowingly. I think one of them, Debbie, even whispered to the hostess once, "They're kind of cute, right?" And I didn't hate hearing that. One Sunday after we paid, Mark said, "Wanna take the long way home?" So we drove. Windows down, autumn air rushing in. The scent of fallen leaves and distant bonfires filling the car. We didn't talk much. Just listened to some old Fleetwood Mac song humming through the speakers. And I swear, when he reached over and laced his fingers through mine at a red light, I felt something shift in the universe. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was real. That night he kissed me for the first time. It happened on my porch, right under the porch light with the spiderweb in the corner I kept forgetting to clean. He said goodnight and I said thank you for dinner, and then he leaned in slow and soft and kissed me like he wasn't rushing to be anywhere else. When we pulled apart, we both kind of laughed, awkward and sweet like two teenagers. I remember leaning my forehead against his chest, my heart thudding.
"I'm scared," he whispered.
He brushed my hair behind my ear. Me too. But neither of us ran. And after that, things deepened. We shared more. Stories, hopes, flaws. I found out he used to write poetry in high school but never showed anyone. He found out I sleep with socks on even in summer and hate when my food touches. It wasn't perfect. We both had wounds. He was still grieving what Lily did. I was still grieving who Lily had been to me. But we were trying. Gently. Honestly. Then one afternoon I got the message. It was from Lily. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even bitter. It just said, "I saw your post. I'm glad you're happy." I mean that. I stared at it for a long time. The post she meant was a picture I'd uploaded the night before. Just me and Mark at the pumpkin patch. Nothing dramatic. He had his arm around me. I was laughing, holding a caramel apple. We looked like every other fall couple in every other small town. But it was real. And she saw that. I didn't know what to write back. Or if I even should. Mark came over later and found me curled on the couch, still staring at my phone. "Everything okay?" he asked. I handed him the phone. He read the message, then handed it back. "You don't owe her anything." "I know," I said. "But I think I needed to see this." Because part of me had still been holding on to guilt. Not just for telling him the truth. Not just for starting something new. But for being happy while someone else hurt. But in that moment I realized I wasn't responsible for her pain. Not anymore. We're all authors of our own stories. She'd written hers. And now I was writing mine. With someone who showed up. Who stayed. Who kissed me like I was worth it. And I was starting to believe it. Things were finally falling into place. But life has a habit of testing you just when you think you found your footing. It was a Tuesday when the storm rolled in. And I don't mean the weather, though the sky was dark that day, heavy with clouds that felt like a bad omen. I mean the emotional kind. The kind you don't see coming until it's too late to run. Mark and I had just finished dinner at my place. Spaghetti, garlic bread, and one of those cheap bottles of red wine we both pretended to like. He was washing dishes, sleeves rolled up, water dripping from his fingers. I was at the kitchen table, scrolling through emails when a name flashed on my screen. Lily. Subject line, "Just so you know." I didn't open it at first. My stomach tightened, the way it does when you know something's about to break again. "Everything okay?" Mark asked, drying his hands. I clicked. The email wasn't long. A few sentences. No punctuation. Just her voice in my head. That cold, clipped way she'd talk when she was trying not to cry. "You should know he came to see me 2 weeks ago. Just to talk," he said. "Maybe he told you, maybe he didn't. Either way, I thought you should hear it from me too." I sat there staring, reading it again. And again. I didn't feel jealous. Not exactly. It was something deeper. A crack I didn't know was still there. Mark came over and touched my shoulder. "What is it?" I turned the laptop so he could read. He didn't even blink. Just leaned down, read the words, and stood there quiet for a few seconds. "I was going to tell you," he said, calm but serious. "I should have told you sooner." I looked up at him. "You saw her?" He sat down across from me, hands folded, voice steady. "She asked me to meet. Said she needed closure. I didn't want to go. I honestly didn't. But I thought, maybe if I went it'd finally be over." "And was it?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah. She apologized. She cried. I listened. I didn't say much. And then I left." I believed him. I did. But that didn't stop the knot in my chest. That stupid tangle of emotions, old betrayal, fresh doubt, fear of being second best. "You should have told me," I said quietly. "I know," he said, reaching for my hand. "I was scared you'd think it meant something. That it would ruin what we have. You don't get to protect me by keeping things from me," I said. "That's not love. That's just fear." He looked down ashamed. And it broke my heart a little, because I knew he hadn't meant harm. But that didn't erase the sting. So I asked him for space. Not forever. Just a little time. He kissed my forehead before he left. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Take all the time you need." I spent the next 2 days alone. Walked around the lake. Cleaned my apartment like it could erase my thoughts. Talked to no one except my neighbor's cat, who liked to sneak onto my windowsill. And I realized something. I was scared too. Scared that love would fall apart again. That the people I trusted would keep letting me down. That being honest, open, real, would always lead to heartbreak. But I was also tired of running from the hard parts. tired of protecting everyone else's feelings while mine sat neglected in the corner. So on the third day I texted Mark, "Come over. Let's talk." He showed up 20 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept much. And we talked. Really talked. About fear. About honesty. About how we both needed to promise each other something more than comfort. We needed truth. Even when it hurts. Especially then. By the end of that night, we weren't just back to where we were. We were something stronger. Something solid. Because love isn't about perfect timing, or always knowing the right words. It's about showing up anyway. It's about choosing someone, every day. Even when the weather turns. Even when the past knocks on your door with bad news. We were choosing each other. And that meant everything. We thought the worst was behind us. But life still had one more surprise in store. And it came dressed in something I never expected, forgiveness. It was early November. One of those oddly warm days where the air smells like leaves and wood smoke and nostalgia. Mark and I had just come back from the farmer's market, arms full of way too many apples, and a handmade candle that smelled like cinnamon and pine. He teased me for buying it. I teased him for buying 4 kinds of honey. We were just settling in when someone knocked on the door. 3 knocks. Not hurried. Not soft. I froze. Something about the rhythm felt familiar. Mark looked at me, then stepped toward the door, peeking through the curtain. He turned back slowly. "It's Lily." My breath caught. I hadn't seen her since the party. Since she told me I was good at pretending. Since everything fell apart. My first instinct was to hide, to run, to pretend I wasn't home. But I didn't. I couldn't. "Let her in," I said barely above a whisper. He opened the door. She stood there in jeans and a faded sweatshirt, her hair pulled back, eyes rimmed with something that looked a lot like regret. She looked smaller somehow, like she'd shrunk since the last time I saw her. "I'm not here to fight," she said, looking past Mark right at me. I nodded. "Come in." Mark stayed nearby, but gave us space, drifting into the kitchen under the pretense of making tea. God bless that man. Lily sat across from me on the couch, hands twisted together in her lap. "I don't even know where to start," she said. I didn't say anything, just waited. "I was so angry," she said finally. "At you. At myself. At everything. But mostly at you, because you did the right thing." That stunned me more than anything else she could have said. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she continued. "Talking to my sister, my therapist. Even my mom, which, well, that's a first." She gave a weak laugh. "And I realized I've been living like I'm owed things. Like loyalty without accountability. Love without honesty." Her voice cracked. "I lost a good man. And I lost the best friend I ever had. And that's on me." I looked down at my hands, surprised to find they were shaking. "I'm not asking for us to go back to how things were," she added quickly. "I know that door's probably closed. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. For lying. For putting you in that position. For making you feel like the villain, when you were the only one brave enough to tell the truth." Silence hung in the air. I finally looked up at her. "You really hurt me." "I know," she said. "And I'll probably spend the rest of my life trying not to make the same mistakes again." I took a deep breath. "I forgive you." The words surprised both of us. But they came from a place I hadn't felt in a long time, peace. Not because what she did didn't matter, but because holding on to the anger wasn't helping me anymore. I was done dragging it around. Lily started to cry quietly. The kind of cry you do when you're exhausted from carrying your own consequences. We didn't hug. We didn't make any promises to rebuild. But we sat there. 2 women who had loved and hurt and learned. And sometimes that's enough. When she left, Mark came back in with 2 mugs of tea. "How'd it go?" he asked gently. I took a sip. She said she's sorry. "And you?" I said I forgive her. He looked at me with that soft pride I'd come to recognize. "That's my girl." I leaned into him. And for the first time in what felt like years, I felt completely unburdened. Because there's a kind of freedom in forgiveness. And I was finally free. As winter crept in, so did something I hadn't let myself hope for. Real soul-deep happiness. But happiness, I learned, comes with its own kind of fear. It didn't hit me all at once. It arrived slowly. In the way Mark would make coffee just the way I liked it. With a splash of oat milk and too much sugar. In the way he'd brush snow off my car before I even woke up. In the notes he'd leave on the fridge when he had to leave early. Don't forget your scarf. And also your magic. I wasn't used to this. The kindness. The calm. And part of me kept waiting for the catch. Like maybe life was holding a trapdoor just beneath my feet, ready to open the moment I fully relaxed. But it never came. December brought early sunsets and walks through downtown lit with twinkling lights. We watched bad holiday movies and made dinner together, dancing in the kitchen to whatever song came on. One night, we got snowed in and stayed up until 2 a.m. making a gingerbread house, so structurally unsound it needed toothpicks to stay upright. This is a disaster, I laughed, holding up a candy cane that kept sliding off the roof. He grinned, eyes full of light. Yeah, but it's our disaster. And right then I knew. I loved him. The thought didn't scare me. It didn't make me want to bolt. It settled over me like a warm blanket. But I didn't say it. Not yet. Because even though everything between us was honest and soft and real, there was still that quiet fear inside me. The kind that whispered, what if this is temporary? What if it's too good? What if you're too much? One night, I told Mark that. Just blurted it out while we were brushing our teeth, both of us in baggy pajamas and half asleep. I'm scared, I mumbled, toothpaste foam and all. He blinked. Of what? Of being this happy, I said. It feels like something could come along and take it all away. He reached for my hand, fingers still warm from holding his mug of tea. Hey, he said. You don't have to wait for the bad to come. We've had our share. This is the part where we get to breathe. I stared at him, toothbrush in hand, heart thudding like crazy. And I almost said it. I love you. But instead, I just smiled. Let the moment sit between us like a secret blooming in the dark. Later that night, while he was asleep beside me, arms slung lazily over my waist, I stared at the ceiling and finally let myself believe it. That this wasn't a fluke. That good things could grow from broken places. That maybe, just maybe, I deserved this. And that the version of me who once thought love had to be messy and painful to mean something, that version was gone. The new me knew better. Because love isn't chaos. It's safety. It's slow mornings. It's holding someone's hand and not worrying if they'll let go. And I wasn't afraid anymore. Spring arrived like a promise kept. And so did everything I didn't know I was waiting for. The snow melted, the birds came back, and the world felt full of second chances. Our little town came alive again. Daffodils popped up along sidewalks. Cafes put their patio chairs back out. And you could smell fresh-cut grass in the air. And me, I was coming back to life right along with it. One Saturday morning, Mark took me hiking. Not one of those intense, sweat-pouring climbs. Just a trail through the woods where the sun filtered through the trees in patches, and the air smelled like damp earth and beginnings. We brought a little picnic, sandwiches, lemonade, and those peanut butter cookies I make too soft because I always forget to set a timer. We sat on this wide rock overlooking a stream, and for a long while, we didn't say anything. Just listened to the water and the birds and the breeze. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out a little box. I blinked. Is that what I think it is? He nodded, nervous and sweet and completely steady. It's not a proposal, he said quickly, smiling. Not yet. I mean, it could be someday if that's what you want. But right now, it's just a promise. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Not flashy or expensive, just a simple gold band with a tiny carved leaf etched into the side. It's a promise that I'm here, he said. That I'm staying. That I'll keep showing up every day, even when things are hard. Especially when they're hard. I felt my throat close up. I love you, he said. And I'm not afraid anymore. I didn't realize I was crying until he reached up and brushed a tear from my cheek with his thumb. I love you too, I whispered. So much. He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit like it had always been meant to be there. And that was it. No audience. No Instagram-worthy backdrop. Just us. Just love. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. Steady. Safe. Later that night, curled up on the couch in sweatpants, eating leftover pasta, and watching an old rom-com we both pretended not to like, but secretly loved, I looked over at him and thought, this is what healing looks like. Not forgetting the past, but learning how to grow something beautiful in its place. Lily and I never became friends again, not like before. But we found a peace. A kind of quiet understanding. She moved to a new city, started fresh. Last I heard, she's doing well. And I hope she is. I really do. Because the truth is people change. They hurt, they heal, they stumble forward. And sometimes when you let go of what no longer fits, you find something, or someone, that finally does. As for me and Mark, we're not perfect. We still burn the toast. We still argue about whose turn it is to fold the laundry. But we're in it. Fully. Honestly. And that's the best kind of ending there is. The one that's not really an ending at all. Just the beginning of something better than we ever expected.